What's going on, everybody? Here we are back for our Week 14 NFL picks. So far on the season, we are 136 and 57, going 11 and 5 last week. We've stacked a couple good weeks together in a row, especially last week. 11 and 5 is nothing crazy, but there was a ton of upsets last week, so it was huge to go 11 and 5. I am now up personally 4 games on second place in my pick'em pool and up into the top 300 in SportsCenter's pick'em pool on ESPN Fantasy Football, which has 130,000 entries. So I'm absolutely stoked with where we're at so far in the season. Hoping to just keep going on this run that we've been on. If you're new to the channel, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It's free to do so, and you get to follow along for these amazing picks. For week 14, we have a ton of huge games this week, a ton of potential elimination games for teams, maybe not statistically, but it's going to make it very difficult for some of the teams that lose this week to make the playoffs. So I'm very excited for this week. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Let's jump into the picks. Starting off with the Cowboys at the Lions. This is absolutely a playoff type of game for both of these teams. Whichever of these teams loses tonight will miss the playoffs. Not statistically, they're not eliminated statistically, but they will miss the playoffs. It's going to be practically impossible for whoever loses, especially if the Cowboys lose to make the playoffs. Lions still have a chance if they lose tonight, but it's going to be pretty grim circumstances for that. So anyways, jumping into this game, starting off with the Cowboys defense. Not something I thought I would say, to be real honest with you. They haven't been real great for the majority of the season, but since the acquisition of Quinnen Williams from the New York Jets, they've been so much better, especially against the run. I kind of thought 2 firsts was overpaying for him, to be real honest. I know he's a great football player, but 2 firsts is pretty good draft capital. It's proved out pretty good for the Cowboys so far. He's been a really solid player on the defensive line. He's absolutely bolstered that run defense, and that's going to be extremely important going up against Detroit that lives and dies by their run game. Couple interesting stats for you. The Lions are 7-0 this season when they get 100 plus rushing yards, and they're 0-5 when they fall below that. So not saying that if they hit 100, they're absolutely going to win, but it's a pretty, clear indicator that when they can run the football, they have a lot more success. And that's going to be really important for the Lions to run the football successfully tonight, as Amon-Ra St. Brown will be playing, we just got news of, but will not be at full strength. I would imagine he's kind of on a snap count, not running the same type of routes that he normally does. So I'm interested to see how much that changes the Lions' offense. Do they have different type of passes called than they typically do, which could really screw things up for them? Or do they kind of just go with the same thing that they've always done and hope that Amon-Ra can just do his best out there? Curious to see what happens with that, but they're going to need to run the ball against a tough Cowboys run defense. Lions defense up and down. It is getting healthier though. They're pretty good against the run, especially with Jack Campbell. He's been one of the best linebackers in the NFL against the run, but they definitely can be exposed at times through the air, and that's where the Cowboys have a huge strength on offense with Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jake Ferguson. Those guys can throw the rock and catch it. They have an elite passing offense and a very good run defense, and that does not bode well for this Detroit Lions team, which is why we are picking the Cowboys to get the road upset on Thursday Night Football in a playoff type game. Does make me nervous that they have to go on the road. If this was at AT&T, I'd feel so much better. But they're going to go on the road, and they're going to get the upset over the Detroit Lions, and the Cowboys are going to stay in the hunt after tonight's game. Next up, we got the Titans at the Browns. So we're going from a very exciting game with, Cowboys and Lions, and now here we are at the bottom of the league with Titans and the Browns. Both these teams have really struggled all season. Name it, they've pretty much struggled with it. Quarterback play, receiver play, offensive line. I think the couple things that we can say is the Browns' defense has been really good, and they've been able to run the ball a little bit. I can't really point to a clear strength of this Titans team. In this matchup, there's really only one thing that I care about, and that's Myles Garrett. He's been absolutely dominant. He's chasing the single season sack record, which he will break. I would imagine he can even get to 25 sacks this season, which could be practically untouchable, to be real honest with you. So, this is going to be a really great record, something I'm really excited to see. He could even go out there and get it in this game. I think he needs 3.5 sacks to get there in this game, so it's unlikely. But I could see him going out there and getting 2 sacks, maybe even three against the Titans' offensive line that's really struggled all season. So we're rolling with the Browns. Shedeur Sanders getting his second win in 3 starts on the back of Myles Garrett. Next up, we got the Seahawks at the Falcons. And two very different stories here. Falcons have struggled all season long. Penix is out for the remainder of the year. Kirk is in, and he has really struggled. And Seahawks have been really good all season long. The Falcons' offense has really struggled since Kirk has come in there, and Drake London will be returning this week, which will help, but I just don't expect them to be able to move the ball well against this Seattle defense that's been really good. I think the Seahawks are going to win this game pretty easily. I just don't think there's too much to analyze here. They're a much better football team. They're going to go out and get right, and the Seahawks are going to win this one. Next up, we got the Colts at the Jaguars, and this is another one of the huge games this week for both teams as they're tied for the division. The Jaguars have the tiebreaker, but these two teams are tied at the top of the AFC South, and it honestly only feels like one of these two teams will make the playoffs. I think that potentially the Texans or the Chiefs will sneak into that 7 spot, and I think one of these two teams might be hung out to dry. So, very important game. Whoever wins this game will likely win the AFC South, as long as they don't have some like late season meltdown, as the Colts have kind of been having recently. They haven't been playing real well, especially with Daniel Jones' injury has been pretty crucial for the Colts. It's hurt his mobility greatly, and they're really going to need to lean on Jonathan Taylor in this game as well as down the stretch if they're going to have any chance of making the playoffs or making a playoff push. It's going to be tough to run the ball for the Colts this week, going up against a Jaguars defense that is number 1 in fewest rushing yards allowed per game. Now, there's more metrics that go into that. Maybe teams think that they can expose them a little better through the air, but the numbers don't lie. The Jaguars have a good run defense, and the Colts are going to have a hard time running the ball. It's going to be a trench battle this week. Jaguars have won 3 in a row. They're looking good. They're getting healthier. BTJ is playing a little bit better than he was earlier in the season. And I think the Jaguars ride the hot streak and get the upset in this one, as the Colts just don't match up well against the Jaguars with really needing to lean on the running game with that Daniel Jones injury. That's a real strength of the Colts and a real strength of that Jaguars defense. So it's strength on strength. Who's going to win that matchup? I think it's going to be the Jaguars getting the home upset in this one. Next up, we got the Commanders at the Vikings. And boy, what do you want to say about these two teams? They've both really struggled all season. I guess I'll start with the Vikings, and just their offense has been terrible all season long. No matter who's been in at quarterback, it's been absolutely gross. Kind of wanted to see that hometown kid, Max Brosmer, have a big game last week. Even though I'm a big Packers fan, I know Brosmer is not, the future of Minnesota, but I wouldn't have mind seeing him have a good game for Thanksgiving week, and it's his hometown team. But he was really bad last week, and J.J. McCarthy will be returning this week, who has also been really bad all season long. Fortunately for them, they're going up against a Commanders defense that's been as bad as it gets in pass coverage. The Vikings defense has been decent, not great. I think we all expected them to be a little bit better. It's been decent. I think one difficult thing for them is they're on the field so much, so the numbers don't look maybe as good as they should. If you go down to EPA per play, they look a little bit better than purely yards allowed. So Vikings defense is decent, and the Commanders have lost 7 straight games. It's important to note if Jaden Daniels will or will not be playing in this matchup. I guess we're going to find out on Friday, so definitely monitor that. If Jaden Daniels comes and plays, I'm picking the Commanders. If he doesn't, I am picking the J.J. McCarthy-led Vikings. You heard that right. We're picking the Vikings, assuming Daniels doesn't play, and I don't expect him to, as there's no need to hurry him back from that injury and cause any more issues with that. We're going with Minnesota to get the win at home. Next up, we got the Bengals at the Bills. And starting off with the Joe Burrow Bengals, they're coming off a huge must win game over the Baltimore Ravens. This game is going to be very important for both of these teams. Bengals are in absolute must win mode. I'm not positive, but I think if they lose, they're pretty much eliminated. At least it's going to be very unlikely. I don't know if they're statistically unlimited, but Bengals need to win out if they want to have a chance at making the playoffs. So, absolute must win game for them. And the Bills are actually on the playoff bubble in the 7 seed. They will probably not be winning the division unless the Patriots just fall apart. So, Bills are fighting for a wild card spot. Bengals are clinging on for dear life. Very important game here. And starting off with the Bengals offense, it looked pretty dang good last week with Joe Burrow. He's had some slow starts to seasons in the past. I mean, he really hasn't played a whole lot this season, so I didn't know if he was going to need to come in, knock some rust off, and he did not. He came out, he balled out, and he beat the Baltimore Ravens, whose defense has been playing pretty dang good recently. So that's huge good news for Cincinnati. Some not so great news for Cincinnati is T. Higgins is in concussion protocol, and I don't expect him to play this week. It just seems like when guys go into concussion protocol, they miss at least 1 week. I would say more often than not. So it's going to be Joe Burrow. It's going to be Jamar Chase. It's going to be Chase Brown. That's going to be the offense. And I'm just not sure that's enough to keep up with this Buffalo Bills team that has had its struggles this season, but is still a really good football team. I think the Bills are just a better team. They're healthier. They maybe don't have the same juice that the Bengals got with Burrow coming back, but I am riding with the Bills to get the home win in one that they really need. Next up, we got the Saints at the Buccaneers, and just going back to the last time these two teams played, it was 23-3 in favor of the Buccaneers. But something really important to note is it was Tyler Shuck's first game. He took over halfway through the game, so he didn't even have the full week to prepare as the starter. He's been starting now for a few weeks. He's got the week to prepare for Tampa Bay in this one. And he has looked much better over the last couple of weeks than he did initially. So I do think this game is going to be closer than 23-3, but I just don't see a scenario where the Saints win this game. The Bucs are a better team. They're getting healthier. Chris Godwin is active in this one. Bucky Irving is back for his second game, and I think will look even better this week than he did last week. Bucs are the better football team. They're fighting for the division. They're fighting for a playoff spot, and they're going to get the win at home in this one. Next up, we got the Steelers at the Ravens, and there is a lot on the line yet again for this game. It seems like I'm saying that for practically every game this week, and we probably will be a bunch down the stretch. But a lot of good divisional matchups happening this week that are really going to decide the playoffs. And starting with the Ravens offense, Lamar has just really, really struggled since returning from his injury. He's dealt with multiple lower leg injuries that have really hurt his mobility. It's very clearly limited if you watch him play, and that changes his game and honestly this offense as a whole. The play action isn't quite as good as it used to be with him rolling out of the pocket. The non-design scrambles from Lamar are just not there, which is one of the best things that he does on the football team is when things break down, he can get out there and go get a positive play rather than throwing it away or taking a sack. And those things we just haven't seen really at all from Lamar this season, other than maybe the first couple of weeks. So Ravens offense has struggled. However, their defense has been playing really, really good football, especially as of late, up until that game against Cincinnati last week in which Joe Burrow ripped them apart through the air. And for the Steelers, they just don't have anything to hang their hat on right now. Their only path to victory is if Aaron Rodgers goes out there and throws for 250, 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he's just not going to do that. I'm not sure exactly what the numbers are, but I don't think Rodgers has thrown over 120 yards in 2 consecutive games, and I think he's under like 175 in 3 consecutive games. Don't have it sitting in front of me, but just off memory, that's about what we've seen out of Rodgers as of late. Yes, he is dealing with that wrist injury, but also, yes, it is still a thing this week. So you can't discount the fact that he's been injured the last couple weeks because he's still hurt. So I just don't see a scenario where the Steelers team wins. I could see that defensive line causing some issues with the Steelers' pass rush for Lamar. Maybe it turns into a little bit more of a slugfest than we would typically expect with the Ravens' hot offense. But Ravens are going to get the win at home in this one, and one where I think they could potentially win easily and maybe get back on track for the remainder of the season. Next up, we got the Dolphins at the Jets, and both these teams have been playing a lot better recently. Dolphins have won 4 of their last 5 games, as Tua and McDaniels and everybody else in that front office is just fighting to keep their job, so they are all very grateful and probably are throwing parties that they've won 4 out of 5 of the last games. And for the Jets, they have actually won 3 of their last 5 games as well. This is a game where I absolutely hate to pick a team here, to be real honest with you. I wish I could just punt this one away, even though I know the Dolphins are a little bit of a favorite. I don't like this game whatsoever because both these teams are so inconsistent. The Dolphins are clearly the better football team, but they've been so inconsistent they're impossible to bet on. The Dolphins' run defense is probably their greatest strength of their team as of right now. I would argue as well that their running outside of the tackles is also pretty dang good. And those are the 2 things that they're going to need to do well to beat the Jets, as well as potentially defending that downfield pass with Adonai Mitchell and Mechie. Those guys have really come alive the last couple of weeks. But I just think the Dolphins are a better football team, and their strengths are not good for what the Jets want to do, with the Jets trying to run the ball against a tough Dolphins team. Run defense. Oh, sorry about that. Against a tough Dolphins run defense. So I'm just not seeing a path to victory here for the Jets. I'm picking the Dolphins, but weird things could happen in this game. Anytime you're talking about some of the worst teams in the NFL, weird things can happen. So we're going with the Dolphins to get the road win. But the other thing too, I almost forgot about this. The other thing too that makes me nervous is it's going to be pretty dang cold up there in New Jersey here for this game. And Tua and the Dolphins play absolutely horribly in the cold. If you need to win a game on your pick and pool, pick the Jets in this one. I'm not saying they're going to win. I am picking the Dolphins because I'm ahead in mine. But this game could go either way. We're going to go with the Dolphins. Next up, we got the Broncos at the Raiders, and similar to the Seahawks Falcons game, these are just 2 teams going in the opposite direction this season. Last time they faced off, it was a close game. It was 10-7, probably the ugliest game to watch all season long. So I hope you guys didn't have to watch that one. I think it was on Thursday night. Maybe it was Monday night. I think it was Thursday Night Football, though. We're not going to see the same thing in this one. It could be close because the Broncos just seem to play close games every single week. But good teams find ways to win, and the Broncos have done it all season long. There's no need to talk about this game all too much. Broncos are going to get the win here. The Raiders' O-line is terrible. The Broncos' pass rush is elite. They are going to cause a fit for Geno Smith and Ashton Jeanty, and the Broncos get the win in this one on the road. Next up, we got the Rams at the Cardinals. And last week, the Rams lost a tough matchup against the Panthers. I think everybody kind of just assumed that the Rams would win that game. I did not expect what we saw last week. I didn't think Bryce Young was going to look as good as he did. So that was pretty great for the Panthers. If you're rooting for them, good for you. If you're rooting for the Rams, I'm sorry. That was a tough game to watch. A couple key mistakes from Stafford last week and really a bad performance from the defense is why the Rams lost. But that's just not something we've seen out of the Rams all season long. Stafford is still the MVP favorite. He's been playing great football, taking care of the ball, throwing tons of touchdowns. And the Rams defense has been pretty good, and I think they get right in this game against a Cardinals team that's just struggled all season long on both sides of the football. I do think Jacoby Brissett has brought some life to this Cardinals passing offense. He's been significantly better than Kyler Murray. I know if you don't know, if you haven't been watching the season, you'd be like, that's crazy, but just look at the numbers. Murray has been terrible. Even last year he was pretty bad, and Brissett's been much better still, albeit not that great. In this game, we're picking the Rams. I just feel like this is a game where they get right, and the Rams could just want to go out there and dominate. So if you're a spread better, I'm not even completely sure what this game is. I'm going to guess probably 6.5, 7 points, somewhere in that range, maybe even 7.5. I'm hammering the Rams. I think McVay's going to be mad after that that loss last week, and just go out and just pummel the Cardinals in a tough divisional matchup here. Next up, my favorite game of the week, of course, my Green Bay Packers. We've got the Dontavian Wicks jersey on today after that 2-touchdown performance out of him last week. I think this is the game of the week, no doubt, for across the entire NFL. This is the number one team in the NFC playing the second team in their division who is half a game back and will leapfrog them in the division with a win this week. I've talked about the Packers a lot. Let's talk about the Bears. They are 9-3 so far this year, and call me a hater, but they are fraudulent. They've had an incredibly easy schedule this entire season. They've played some bad teams poorly and snuck out wins. They really honestly haven't had a ton of tough competition. So I think the Bears are up for a real test here in this game against the Packers. And for the Bears, that Ben Johnson-led offense has been really, really good at running the football. And I would argue, though, for the Packers, that's a huge strength for their team. Devontae Wyatt going down for the Packers defense is going to be critical, especially this week against the Bears, who really want to run the football. Devontae Wyatt's a big dude on that front line who can really help stop the run. But Colby Wooden has actually been a really great backup against the run, so I'm not super worried about his performance this week. He doesn't pressure the quarterback nearly as well as Wyatt, but anyways, back to the Bears offense. They've run the ball really well. Caleb Williams is still not playing great football. He's had his ups and downs, but he's been good enough to win games and be successful for this team. And for the Bears defense, I don't think it's really all that great. It's been improving, and they force a ton of turnovers, which really, really helps them. But they kind of remind me of the early season Jaguars offense where they allowed a ton of yards, both through the air and on the ground, and then got turnovers to kind of make the point total go down for the opposing team, but the yards are still up there. And the Packers have just not turned the ball over this season. They've taken really good care of it. Jordan Love has taken great care of the football, and I expect him to do the same thing here on Sunday. For the Packers, huge dominant win over the Lions last week. Jordan Love and that Packers offense looked absolutely great. And you can't argue about that Packers defense. It's absolutely elite. It shut down Jahmyr Gibbs last week. And I think they're going to do the same thing against the Bears run game in this one. I could see them having some success, maybe totaling over 100 yards between Swift and Monangai. But I just don't see the Bears running the ball down the Packers' throat all game long. And I think the Packers just have that home field advantage as well. You know, I'm obviously riding with my Green Bay Packers, but I'm trying to convince all of you guys as well. Packers are the better football team. However, I do think 6.5 points is probably too much in this one. I was surprised to see that line. So if you think the Bears are the better team, just ask Vegas. They're 6.5 point underdogs, and they're the number one team in the NFC. They're a fraudulent team. They're not going to win a playoff game this year. I don't think they're going to win a playoff game in the next 3 years. Call me crazy for that. Packers get the win on Sunday. Next up, we got the Texans at the Chiefs, and this is a big, big game for both of these teams. An absolute must-win game for both teams. And I'll say it right here. It's not statistically impossible, but whoever loses this game will not make the playoffs. For the Chiefs on offense, couple really critical injuries for them on the offensive line. Starting left tackle Josh Simmons is going on IR, as well as some other critical offensive line injuries as well. And that's going to be really, really tough as they've struggled to run the ball recently, struggled to protect Pat Mahomes. And it's going to be especially hard this week going up against the Texans, who have potentially, I won't even say potentially, they have the best edge rush duo in the NFL. I would put the Packers with Gary and Parsons right behind them. I know the Broncos have a pretty good duo out there as well, but the Texans have been phenomenal at rushing the passer off the edge this season. And it's going to be really tough for the Chiefs to have a whole lot on offense with not much offensive line going up against probably the best defense in the NFL and definitely the best pass rush in the NFL. I don't think the Chiefs are going to be able to throw the ball outside the numbers a whole lot, as that just hasn't been a strength for them all season. Derek Stingley out there, he's an absolute dog. So they're going to really need to hone in over the middle, which is actually a good strength of this Chiefs offense. But the Texans are going to know that. They're going to focus on that. They're going to know Mahomes is going to try to get the ball out early, and I think they're going to play really, really good defense against this Kansas City team. And for the Texans, offense has been getting better as of late, It's not great, but it's been getting better, and they've done enough to win football games. In this matchup, nothing to me screams pick the Chiefs. Everything in my gut is telling me pick the Texans. Or I shouldn't say my gut. Everything in the analyzing is telling me to pick the Texans, but my gut is telling me to pick the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes at Arrowhead Stadium, home game, Andy Reid. I think it's going to come down to Mahomes versus Stroud, and give me Mahomes 11 times out of 10 in that matchup. We're going with the Chiefs to get the home win. Final matchup of the week, we've got the Eagles at the Chargers on Monday Night Football. And this one, it's going to be another important game to monitor. The injury report with the Chargers, it looks like Herbert will probably be out. I know he's going to do everything he can to play, and it's going to be Monday night, which is going to give him an extra day. But I'm going to be surprised if he comes back to play after, I think he had a small fracture in his hand that resulted in a kind of an easier procedure over the week. So I'm going to guess that Herbert is out, and they're going to be in big trouble if he is. Trey Lance is going to be coming in at quarterback for the Chargers, and I just don't see a world where he throws the ball all over the Eagles, which is really the only way to attack this defense. Well, I shouldn't say that. The Bears proved otherwise last week with that rushing attack, but for the most part this season, the Eagles have been vulnerable through the air, and Trey Lance is not going to attack the Eagles downfield and beat them by throwing for 280 yards. So assuming Herbert is out, I give the Eagles the easy win in this one. Even if Herbert is in, I just think the Eagles are the better football team. Their offense still has its ups and downs, but I just think the Eagles are going to get the win, especially if Herbert doesn't play. Anyways, thank you for following along. If you've made it to this point, thank you so much. Put a lot of work into these videos, and I'm just glad that somebody made it to the end of the video and watched it. This is the Week 14 pick video. We've got 4 more coming out for the remainder of this season. So be sure to tune in for those final 4 weeks of the NFL season. We're also going to be dropping some playoff stuff as well. So if you're not subscribed already, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and see you next week. Don't fade the picks.